Listen to this. A single safety oversight could now cost your company over $165,000. Yeah, you heard that right. With the new 2026 penalty increases, OSHA is cracking down harder than ever before. I've been a senior EHS manager for over 15 years, and today I'm going to show you exactly how a minor hazard can literally bankrupt a business. We're going to break down the 5 specific types of OSHA violations and the exact steps you need to take right now to protect your team and your bottom line. Let's dive in. Think about this number for a second. $165,514. That is the new 2026 maximum penalty for just one severe OSHA violation. I mean, OSHA penalties in 2026 have hit historical highs, and this is the real financial shock value we are up against today. If you're a site supervisor, maybe a new safety officer, or a corporate decision maker, managing this level of financial liability, it's now absolutely crucial. It's one of the most critical parts of your job. So here's our game plan for today's explainer. We'll start with a quick introduction, break down the 5 categories of violations, look at the failure-to-abate trap, walk through a real-world case study, and wrap up with some actionable steps you can take today. All right, part 1. Let's start by defining the baseline. Simply put, an OSHA violation is failing to follow the safety and health standards set by the Occupational Safety and Health Act. But this definition actually reveals something super important. An OSHA violation is really a dual threat. First, and obviously most importantly, it's a failure to protect the personal safety and the very lives of your employees. But secondly, it represents severe financial and legal liabilities for the employer. As you'll see today, OSHA fines are definitely not just a slap on the wrist. They are designed to be substantial enough to act as a very serious deterrent. Okay, moving on to part 2. Let's get right into the 5 specific categories of violations. Our first and honestly least severe category is what's called a de minimis violation. Basically, these are minor technical infractions. They have no direct or immediate impact on employee health or safety. For instance, say a safety standard mandates that ladder rungs must be exactly 12 inches apart, right? But your ladder rungs are, 13 inches apart. That's a de minimis violation. You're going to get a verbal warning, it'll get logged in your safety file, but the good news, it carries absolutely no financial fine. Next up, we step into other than serious violations. Now, these actually do have a direct relationship to job safety, but they're unlikely to cause death or serious physical harm. A super common example here is poor record keeping, or maybe failing to post required safety signage. But hey, do not let that phrase, other than serious, lull you into a false sense of security. These record-keeping violations can still trigger a maximum OSHA penalty of up to $16,550 per instance. So yeah, it still stings. Then we reach the serious violation. This one gets cited when there's a substantial probability that death or serious physical harm could result from a hazard. And crucially, the employer either knew or absolutely should have known about the condition. Think about things like unguarded machinery or sending workers up on an exposed roof without any fall protection. The maximum fine here sits at that exact same $16,550 ceiling we just talked about, and honestly, these make up the bulk of high-priority OSHA citations. Now brace yourselves because we are entering the bankrupting category, the willful violation. The magic word here is intent. A willful violation means the employer demonstrated an intentional disregard for safety or just plain indifference to the regulations. If you knew a hazard existed and you just chose to ignore it to save some time or a few bucks, OSHA's gonna hammer you. The penalties here skyrocket up to $165,514 per violation. And worse, if a willful violation actually results in an employee's death, you could be looking at criminal charges including potential time in prison. No joke. And rounding out our main categories, we have the repeated violation. This happens when an inspector finds a hazard that's substantially similar to a violation your company was already cited for in the past. OSHA uses a very strict 5-year look-back period. So if you fail to learn from your past mistakes within that 5-year window, boom, that can trigger that exact same massive penalty of up to $165,514 per violation. When you break down the 2026 maximum penalties, you can clearly see the staggering financial leap we're talking about here. Jumping from a $16,550 serious violation all the way to a $165,514 willful or repeated violation can literally obliterate a company's profit margin for the entire year. And please remember, these penalties are assessed per violation, not per inspection. 10 serious violations, you've easily blown past $165,000. All right, Section 3. Let's talk about the failure-to-abate trap. So when you get a citation, OSHA gives you a specific abatement deadline to actually fix the hazard. If you ignore that deadline, OSHA doesn't just send you a polite reminder letter in the mail. The fines compound, and they compound aggressively. You can be penalized up to $16,550 per day that the hazard remains unabated beyond that deadline. Think about that. If you let an issue sit for just 30 days, you are looking at nearly $500,000 in additional fines. It's wild. Moving into Section 4, let's look at a real-world case study to put this all into perspective. Okay, imagine this. An inspector walks your floor and spots a worker servicing a machine without properly locking out the hazardous energy. Normally, this is a severe hazard, right? It would be cited as a serious violation, capping out around $16,550. However, what if the inspector checks your internal records and finds out that your safety committee previously warned management about this exact LOTO deficiency and management just did nothing? That inaction transforms a routine serious violation into a devastating $165,514 willful violation. The difference between a manageable fine and a totally catastrophic one is very often just prior knowledge combined with inaction. So, how do we stop this from happening? Section 5, Action Steps and Proactive Defenses. Based on my 15 years out in the field, I can tell you these 3 steps are your absolute best defense. Step 1 is the walk-around. You have got to conduct rigorous internal compliance audits regularly. Find and fix those hazards before an OSHA inspection ever happens. Step 2 is training. Mandating OSHA 1030 training for your supervisors is huge. It ensures your frontline leaders actually understand the law and can spot hazards in real time. And Step 3, documentation. Keep your logs updated. Having pristine paperwork is honestly the easiest way to prevent those pesky, costly, other than serious record-keeping violations. And here's a little secret. OSHA actually provides financial incentives for being proactive. If you do get inspected, having strong, documented safety programs and showing prompt hazard correction can trigger standard, good faith reductions. That can lower your baseline penalties by up to 15%. Plus, if you have a clean 5-year inspection history, you could see an additional 20% reduction. So investing in a strong safety culture literally protects your margins. It pays for itself. Which brings us to Section 6, our conclusion, and the real financial weight of all this. So the most crucial takeaway here is this. OSHA violations are not just an acceptable cost of doing business. They just aren't. They are glaring, leading indicators of systemic operational danger that can seriously harm your people and completely bankrupt your company. I want you to look at your own facility right now. Are you truly prepared for an OSHA inspection today? Would your safety programs hold up to that $165,000 level of scrutiny? It's time to evaluate your internal compliance audits and close those gaps for sure. Because remember, your paperwork is often the very first thing an inspector asks for. So, to make sure you don't fail before they even walk the floor, watch our OSHA record-keeping explainer next. Like, share, and subscribe to HSC Study for more high-impact safety insights.